Hello and welcome back to another episode of Scruffy's Guide to Valheim, and tonight we are going to be looking at the plains. What's there, what to worry about, what to try and collect, and when, and all that kind of stuff. So in order to get anywhere in the plains and not die, you're going to need to have fully upgraded wolf armour and the silver shield, and either a silver sword or the Frostnir, whichever you prefer really. I kind of started with Frostnir and then I decided I liked the sword better, and I just was going for swords anyway, although weirdly I've ended up with a porcupine, but there you go, let's not worry about that. But that's the armour that you need to begin with, and it's going to be a bit of a problem because you're going to be stuck in that armour until you find flax, which can take a little while, and a little bit of prep will be involved in dealing with that. One thing you are definitely going to need is a big bag full of arrows and the Draugafang bow, which I think you should have had since the swamp. The types of arrows you want to use, I like the poison arrows, but I also like the needles. But you won't be able to make the needles until you've actually been wandering around in the plains for a while. So for all intents and purposes, go for poison arrows, and you should do fine with that combination. I would always try and take 100 or more, because some of the big things you're going to run into, you're really going to want to try and hit them as many times as possible before you have to either run away or fight. We'll get there. I'll explain that when we get there. Next on the list, though, to think about is food. I definitely a big fan of the sausages. That's very good at this stage. Turnip stew is a cracker with 50-50 on the old health and stamina. And I personally go for carrot soup. It's not got very much health, but it does have a massive amount of stamina, which is really, really useful for running away. And you might well have to do a bit of running away on the plains. As an alternative, if you did want to have more hit points, you could go for either basic meat or neck tails. They will do you fine. Once you've been there a while and killed some locks, you get these monstrous things which are yummy. So that's kind of one of the reasons for going. Aside from that, some potions is always a good idea. You should be doing the medium healing potions by now. And yeah, other than that, you are good to go. So the plains is the kind of light beige coloured area on the map. And you will probably find it, or you probably will have found some of it sailing past on your way to go and find either the Elder, which for me was right the way down there, or possibly the dragon thing, which was there, or I think I even found some over here, actually was plains, but I didn't explore any further because I didn't need to. But anyway, so my recommendation is find a bit of nicer land nearby, like for example here is Black Forest. There's another plains one down here which is built in a similar bit of Black Forest. And build yourself a portal to that place. It's just easier to defend, you don't have to worry about it so much. And if you do have to come back to life and make a run for it to get to your corpse, it's good to have a sort of an easier starting location. Just makes best sense. So that's my tip for success, and here we are. So let's go and show you what we are up against. There are three main types of baddie, if you want to call them that, living on the plains. We have got these things, which are lox. Now they are amazing. They make fantastic meat, and you can make a lovely cloak out of them, which is what I'm wearing at the moment. So that's cool. So you definitely want to find and kill some of those. And the way I would recommend doing it is find a large lump of rock that you can stand on where they can't get to you and just shoot them for ages, because they've got an absolute ton of hit points, and they do an awful lot of damage. Not the best idea to do it up a building, because they will just destroy the building you're standing on in order to try and get to you. That's not a good look. So that's the lox. I'll fight some of those in a bit and show you what that looks like. And they do an awful lot of damage with that big charge. And if they actually hit you, it will hurt a lot because you're standing there with a bow like a plonker. But the alternative is that you actually try and get into a fist fight with them, and that just is a terrible idea. So what I've done there is I've actually lured them towards some dwarves, just so it'll take them a couple of seconds to kill them. You see the damage on that stomp? Ridiculous. But, yeah, I'm nearly dead. And I'm using poison arrows here, folks. Just for that added poisony tick of death. So that's locks. That's how you deal with them. Just sort of keep backing away and make sure they don't get you. And they normally drop 5 lots of meat or 4 lots of meat. 5 if you're very lucky. And they normally drop 2 bits of material. Get lost. The second peril of the plains, right on cue, is the death skeeto, which are these little gits here. Now, they are pretty much the ultimate glass cannon. They do not take a lot to kill, but they do an awful lot of damage. If you don't happen to hear the buzz, then they will smack you for 30 damage if you're in your wolf armor. Which you will be when you first arrive. So it's really important when you're wandering around to have your shield with you at all times and listen out for the buzz. And then you just block and smack. And they're as easy as that. It's not difficult to kill them. And that's how you get your needles. So that's kind of really helpful because you can make really very sharp arrows out of needles. And the final type of bad guy that you're going to find in the plains are these things down here where my crosshair is. That is a furling. Fooling? Furling? I don't know. Furling. And these guys are really quite hard, and they do quite a bit of damage, and they spawn in groups of 4 in the night. And that's a real bit of a caper. So you don't want to... Oh, hello. You don't want to be having to deal with a group of 4 of them unless you're kind of like me and you've been doing it for a bit and you've got the next level of armour up. Let's get rid of that. So furlings, best bet really is to try and start by shooting them, but obviously we got a bit interrupted by the death skeeto, so that hasn't happened. I'm just going to let him hit me. That was 100 points of damage, so you get the idea. So parrying is great, and then you just sort of follow up, and then it's fine. But if you get the timing wrong and you get hit, then you're going to get hit for quite a lot of damage. So do be careful. And now there are different versions of those as well. Because one of the main things that you're going to be doing here is looking for village type places. So let's go and find a village so I can show you what that looks like. Worth mentioning in passing that there is a handy little food snack available in the form of these cloudberries. They are, I mean, they hide amongst the kind of pale grass, but, you know, they're there. They're not great, but tell you what, right, while I was building my castle, I basically lived on these because I kept doing things where I would fall off a ladder and lose 12 hit points. So I just relied on the cloudberries because they just, what are they, like 15? Yeah, 15 hit points. Basically rubbish. You'd never want to eat them in a dangerous place. But good for wandering around at home, doing DIY. That kind of thing. This in front of me here is a Fooling village, and it would be populated by quite a few of them, and there'd probably be a few of the mages, a couple of them waving firebrands around. There'd be the spear throwers, the swordsman, and the swordsman with the shields. There may also be giant troll-sized ones, which are really, really bad news. But the reason there aren't any here is because this is a giant rock. And I found this giant rock, and I just stood on it, and I shot them all. with bows and arrows, and then they ran over and just ran around by the bottom of the rock, and I shot them some more. So I can't really show you how to do that, but it is a good strategy. If you find a big rock or something where they can't simply climb onto, then you can just go and snipe to your heart's content. A couple of features in here. Let's just go and have a quick rummage so you know where there are chests, which I have already looted. Each village has a little totem pole, and on top of the totem pole is a totem, and you have to collect 5 of those to do the boss summon at the end of, well, whenever you find the summoning spot. There's sometimes more chests in these, sometimes beds. And there are also field areas. Now this is barley. There are 2 different types of crops that you can find in the plains, and they need to be farmed in the plains. This is barley, so we'll just dig up barley. Barley makes bread. It makes some sort of fish bread wrap type thing. I think it need it for lox pie, a couple other pies, serpent pie maybe, I can't remember. Very, very handy. So you're definitely going to want to grab some of that. Don't go home and plant it in your home. It needs to be planted in the plains. I'll show you that in a sec. The other thing that you might find in a field is... Ouch! Walked into a spike. The other thing you might find in a field is... let's just refuel. Is flax. Now there wasn't any around here, but flax is required to make all of the final weapons that you can get to when you find the black metal, which is this. Now, black metal scraps are dropped by viewlings. They just literally drop them all over the place. You find a village, you kill a bunch, you wander in, you pick them all up. It's very, very easy to collect. It's one of the easiest minerals to collect because you just have to do the fighting whilst you're doing the clearing anyway, because you need to get to the totems. So I think, aside from showing you the farming aspect, which I will do in a moment, that's almost all there is to tell you. There are just one more thing. Final thing to look out for on the plains while you are wandering around are henges like this. Because every time you find one of these things, they're not always like this, by the way. There's sometimes they're just on their own, sometimes they're in a kind of a horseshoe shape. There's loads of different configurations, but anytime you find something like this, there is a chance that it's going to spawn one of these tiny red "Where is my boss?" sign locators. So keep looking for these because it's taken me ages. They're not particularly common in the plains, although they are relatively easy to see from distance. Having said that, I did walk straight past this one up there because of this hill line. But there you go. That's how you find the boss. One final thing to show you, and that is how and where you should be thinking about building a little farm. Let's go show you that now. So in my opinion, to avoid stress and repeated attacks from things like death skeetos, it's a good idea to build a portal in a safe place near the plains, which is what I've got here, this tiny little slither of black forest up on my map. Let me just show you this here. This just tiny little bit of black forest works as a kind of a buffer and keeps away most of the nasties of the plains. And then what I have done is just very simply set up a small farm, which is kind of basically just a flat area of ground with a fence around it. But then to give it a little bit of more of a sound absorption buffer, I've got no idea if this actually makes any difference at all. But I went and planted a bunch of trees around the edge. It might make no difference, but it seems to. I haven't actually been attacked by a death skeeto when I've been in here since I planted all the trees. So I don't know whether that's a coded thing in the game, whether that's supposed to happen, whether it's just a lucky kind of a weird mishap. But yeah, so essentially this is just a field full of crops. So we've got your flax crop, which you find in the villages, and you've got the barley crop, which you find in the villages. Now, early on you're going to want to be doing a lot of flax because you need it to upgrade some weapons, make new weapons, make new armour. But then as you get to the end of that, you're going to sort of want to switch over to largely a big field of barley. just because bread is great. Well, that's it for this episode, and I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope it's been helpful. If it has been either enjoyable or helpful, then please press the like button or subscribe. Either one of those is awesome, and I would really appreciate it. The next video will probably be the final one of the series, and we will cover how to beat the final boss of the game. If you want to make sure that you are there, remember to click the notifications button. Until then, take care. See you soon. Bye bye.